There's one comparison that sparks debate in the property world, and most people are getting it completely wrong. They save, wait, and work for years to buy one buy-to-let, thinking that is the smartest way to wealth. While they're focused on ownership, smart investors are controlling 10 plus properties through rent to rent with way less capital and way higher cash flow. And then guess what? They use that cash flow to then buy multiple properties, not just the one. Our mentees use this exact strategy to leapfrog the ladder and build massive portfolios that cash flow to change their lives. So if you're still playing the slow game, this video could be the mindset shift that changes everything. So this is you. Okay, you desperately want to get into property investment. And let's suppose that you have, let's say you've got 50K to work with. All right. Now, the big problem is this. If you want to buy this house, okay, if you want to buy this house, what's going to happen is you're only going to have enough money for one. And let's just suppose in this example that this particular property, let's say it churns out £1,000 per month. That basically means that's £12,000 per year. By the way, you'd struggle to get a decent buy-to-let with 50K all in now. But what that basically means is you've got £12,000 return on your money for a 50K investment. And all things being constant, it would take you just over 4 years for you to recoup that investment so that you could go again, right? And you'd buy the second one. But obviously what's going to happen is there's going to be repairs, there's going to be taxes, there's going to be issues that are going to come up, which is probably going to extend this out. Now, let's suppose that your big goal, this is you, okay? Your big goal is you want to replace your income of 3K per month. You're going to need 3 of these houses. So if I just do quick maths and go 3 times 50K is basically what you're going to need. And the problem with that is what's going to happen, let's start a new page, is if we do a timeline, okay, this is you today, or this is, let's just call this day 1. This is day 1. What's going to happen is you're going to buy a property, and let's just say we buy it here. It's going to take a little while to find it. Then essentially what's going to happen is you're going to have to pretty much wait, let's put it here, 4 years, because you are going to have to wait for that money to generate for you to buy the second property. And then technically what's going to happen is you are then going to half that time. You should be able to hopefully buy another one in 2 years or thereabouts, because your cash flow is increasing. But that is the smoothest eventuality. But long story cut short, £3,000 a month, it's going to take you a long time. All right, that could take 6 years, if not longer. And the fact of the matter is you're not going to save all the cash flow. Things are going to come up. You're going to get married. You're going to have kids. You're going to have other things that come up that are going to stop you from doing this. So it could take you 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years to replace your income. So in the comments, let me know who wants to stay in your job and stay the same and not build financial independence for another 10 years, not me. So in Rent to Rent, we do something different. This is the smart version of you, also desperate to get into property, also has a nice 50K, but this time, rather than you putting all that money into one asset, what you're actually going to do is you're going to basically not buy the property. You're just going to get landlords on board that are going to let you babysit their property for 5 years. You pay them all the rent. You take on the asset. And what's going to happen is you're only going to spend around £5,000 per one of these deals, which now means you can get 10 properties. So rather than you earning £1,000 a month, you're now earning a whopping 10K per month or 120K per year. So let's just suppose that takes 12 months to achieve. Now, FYI, I did double this in my first year. I'm seeing Eduardo and Antonia in London absolutely smashing it over 20 grand a month in 18 months. I'm seeing the likes of Ed doing over 50k a month. I'm seeing people that are brand new that get to 3k in just 90 days. But for the purpose of this example, if you're doing 10k per month, let's do another timeline, right? Let's do another timeline. Let's say this is day 1 again. Did I do day 1 or day 0? It doesn't matter. It does. OCD. Okay, so what's going to happen now is you're not going to just get the one deal. You're going to get 10. But let's say, for example, that could take you 1 year. Let's say that's going to take you 12 months. So what's going to happen is you're going to do some deals. Okay, how many is that? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So what's going to happen is now, going into year 2, you're now generating a massive 10k per month. So what's going to happen by the end of year 2 or 24 months, you're essentially going to have generated 120k. All right. Now, if you add another 6 months, let's go to month 30. You're going to now be on a massive, okay, because you're in 10 grand a month, okay, 120, 240, another 60. You're going to be on 180k. And in just the space of 12 months, 24 months, okay, 30 months, you're now able to buy your 3 houses and some. But more importantly, every single year you can buy 1, 2, 3 houses as you scale this up. So this sounds good. How does it work? Why isn't everybody doing this? It's really interesting. I had a conversation with a gentleman the other day, really smart guy, earning over 200 grand a year in his job, got 3 or 4 service accommodation units he owns. And he just, with absolute clarity and conviction said, listen, Simon, I know how to buy properties. I've done it. I need your help with rent to rent specifically, because he knows how powerful this stuff works. And you can do this on any type of house, whether the house worth 100 grand. So, we see people doing this on houses where they're worth 100k. All right. And, in this eventuality, if you wanted to buy this house, you might be able to buy this house for, let's just say, 25k deposit, little bit of stamp duty. Let's just say all in, you might be looking at 35k roughly. You might be able to buy that house. But the beautiful thing with rent to rent is you could probably control it for just £3,000. But you could also do it with higher valued properties. So this gentleman, he actually wanted to do it on big £1 million houses. So you can imagine, if this is £1 million house, most people would never be able to afford to buy this. Why? Because basically you're going to be looking at, if I just 10x this figure, you might be looking at 300 plus K to make that work. Whereas in rent to rent, maybe you could grab that for 20k, okay, maybe even 30k, depending on the necessary works. So it's just an absolute no-brainer. But how do you actually do this? Well, there are 3 stages to sourcing your first rent-to-rent deal. The first thing we must do, okay, is we must do the foundations, or what I like to call set up. So this is going to consist of setting up the business, okay? You want to set up the business. You're going to want to make sure that you've got all your branding dialed in so you can attract the landlords. We're going to make sure our compliance is sorted, so you're part of all the correct legislation, the schemes, the memberships, the insurances. You want to make sure all that's dialed in. And then last but not least, you want to make sure you've got all your legal documents, because clearly you do not want to do rent to rent using the traditional AST. That would be illegal subletting. So what we want to do is we want to use the correct contracts that are going to be able to take these properties on in the right and legal way. So first thing, you just got to get set up. Now, good news is I've got a checklist, okay, on exactly what you need to do to set up your rent-to-rent business. I will post a link below in the description. Go through that massive value and it will just walk you through all of this so you can move on to stage 2. The second step to Rent-to-Rent 2.0 is a big challenge. You see, a lot of people say, hey, okay, I want to do this rent-to-rent thing, but the problem is I kind of feel like it's going to work in my area, but I don't know whether to do serviced accommodation, HMO, should I do supported living? So there's loads of question marks as to if this is going to work. And the problem, of course, with this concept is that if you take this property on and offer to guarantee the landlord's rent, the last thing you want to do is be left with an empty property and you're on the hook for the rent, right? It's the last thing you want to do. So what we like to do is we need to make sure we've got what I call a location strategy, which basically means you know exactly what type of property you're going for. I call it an ideal deal. Okay, the second thing that's going to be absolutely key is that you know your numbers. Because let's say the rent on this property is, let's just say the rent is £1,000 per month. And let's say we're going to put it on Airbnb and charge £100 per night. The total potential income's 3,000, right? But what happens if we're only for half of the time? Well, we don't want to be losing money. So we need to understand the numbers so that we're doing this in the safest possible way. A big thing I like to do with my mentees is we don't guess. We want to use precise market data and we want to leverage the experience of our community to know, hey, 3 beds with parking in this area work amazingly. So this is how we build the location strategy. So rather than guessing or doing a scattergun approach, we know exactly the type of properties in the exact area that's going to remove a lot, not all, okay, a lot of the risk. With any investment, there's always an element of risk. Disclaimer, okay? This is not like, it's not like putting a shelf up from IKEA. But if we do all of this stuff, I guarantee you this, your chances of success are extremely high. And what's going to happen is we're going to know your numbers so that we might break even at, say, 50% occupancy, which I can 100% guarantee will happen in 99.999% of the situations. And last but not least, the third step to making this happen is, okay, it's now time for you to go ahead and source the deal. It's like, okay, Simon, this sounds good, but why the hell would a landlord give me their valuable asset and let me benefit from it? And the answer to that is pretty simple. I always talk about this, right? Most landlords, they want a few different things, right? It's not brain science, this stuff. It's pretty simple. They want their rent. Okay, well, good news. We would guarantee your rent. Okay, we want a long-term tenant. Well, good news. We could guarantee your rent for 5 years. We want someone that's going to care for the property. Oh, you guessed it. Good news. We're going to take care of the property, right? And a big thing at the moment, it's a massive edge for rent-to-renters, is that a lot of tenants, okay, the landlord doesn't have much security because once the tenant is in the property, very hard to get them out. So we offer a huge amount of security that just traditional tenants cannot do. So when we source rent-to-rent deals, we use 12 unique strategies that will get you 3 property viewings per week on average, which means on average 10.5 viewings gets 1 deal. And that's what we see on our community. That's just not a figure I plucked out of my head. That is based on thousands of deals that we actively source every single year in our community. So all you've got to do is just find a way to position this in the correct way to the landlord, and I promise you they will bite your hand off, especially if you've done step 1 correctly. Remember, link in the description on how to get the business set up.